So to Nigeria's political opposition, polarized, acrimonious and fragmented, clinging to life as it tries to stake out a new position ahead of 2027. Every day, it seems, there is a new roster of defectors from the opposition to the ruling APC. The APC is, of course, continuing to claim that it's not taking any coercive action to bring them over, and that all the drama and theatrics in the opposition parties is what's forcing these defections through. But members of the opposition, and indeed the public, seem to put the blame rather more on the APC. Meanwhile, politicians of every shade remain all but tone deaf to the struggles of ordinary people with little involvement in their lived experiences. So as that Tinubu shock and the strategic threat it poses continues, could it prompt a massive opposition turnaround, throwing up a new generation of political leaders? Or is the opposition now irreversibly on the road to decline? Well, one of those who's been described as the face of a new, younger generation of patriotic opposition politicians is barrister Adewale Adebayo. He was the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, or SDP, in 2023, and he joins me now in the studio. Lovely to see you again.
It's a pleasure to see you, Charles.
Thank you for coming in. Let me start by asking you what your reaction is to this growing cascade of defections from the opposition parties to the ruling APC, and your assessment of the reasons that are being proffered for those defections.
Well, if you will excuse me, let me just register my sincere condolences to the government and people of Benue State. It's sad to say it again because I've had to say it on too many occasions. And this is a very sad one in particular, and it is a clarion call that this comedy show we call politics has practical consequences, and that people who are in leadership must be up and doing. And I hope that it's not just we wail and moan, and then the next one is worse than this. I think this should be a turning point for the country. Human lives are not to be wasted that way. And the causes are well known, they're preventable, and the solution is good governance. And that brings me to your question. The so-called defections are sometimes coming out of the closet for people who were claiming to be opposition because they've been compulsorily retired into opposition, not by choice. When you choose to be in opposition by choice, you have access to the ruling party and those in power, but you just don't agree with them. And the reasons why you don't agree with them are well articulated, and they have to do with the interests of the Nigerian people. There is zero risk of you defecting unless those fundamental disagreements, fundamental problems have now been eliminated, and everybody in Nigeria will know that poverty is no longer there, that insecurity is no longer there, and that the corruption and poor ethics that have dominated our politics now have changed. So anything other than that, you will find out that people who miss the bus of the ruling party tend to wait in the bus stop of opposition until the next bus comes, and then they hop along, and that's the issue. There is nothing new. Many of them are being primed and kept in waiting for the dramatization of resurgence by the ruling party. So they keep them there. They say, okay, you just go and mingle with them, and when the time comes, we will use you to demoralize them.
Right.
So that's why we're very careful about who comes to us and say, I'm in opposition.
When you say us, you mean SDP?
SDP in particular, yes.
Because, I mean, listening to what you're saying, it sounds like you have no intention of ever moving anywhere else until these things are sorted that you're talking about. The problem, of course, with politicians is that they will come and claim that those things have either been sorted or that the process of sorting them has begun, in which case they justify their whatever actions they're taking, political defections or otherwise, by saying that, well, this guy has impressed me and I've seen what he's doing, and he's in the process of starting the repair.
Well, you see, they don't have any burden because they don't really have to believe in what they're saying. So they just say it for the moment. But I joined the SDP when I was 19 years old, in 1991. In the days leading to Abiola, at that time, it was even Yaradua, Adamu Shiroma, and a few other people. Adamu Shiroma was in NRC at that time. And then Abiola came, then Atiku Abubakar, and then King Gabriel came to also run. He was chairman of the party at that time. And I joined because of Lateef Jakande in Lagos, joined on Bishop Street, Lupeju Estate, Lagos. And I have not joined any other political party since that time. And when
well, that's impressive.
Yes, so and and I don't see any reason why I would join any other one, because this party is well positioned to solve the problems of Nigeria. And when Abiola came, farewell to poverty. That was 1992, leading to 1993, farewell to poverty. Now it is still valid today, farewell to poverty. If you pick Abiola's programs and you want to implement them, it's unfortunate that they will just fit, because none of the problems have been solved. Rather, more have been added. That is why in 2023, when I came, 30 years later, we did farewell to poverty and insecurity. And the guidelines are there. There is no change of government that is going to solve the problem without change of ideas, change of methodologies, and change of culture. So the idea that someone can get a call from the State House or anywhere, visit the president, get enraptured in the magic of photography, and come out and say there's a new epiphany, it's their own politics.
Right.
And if the president drops out tomorrow, they will also change their mind and go somewhere. So for those, they have their own role. Right. In politics, but and they are not playing the kind of role we want to play.
Right. And listening to that speech, which I'm sure you did, on Democracy Day by President Tinubu, I mean, did you get the impression that he sees these defections as a sign of his own political strength?
What is clear, if one wants to be fair, you have to give President Tinubu A1 in politics. The only problem he has with the A1 he has in politics is that he tends to have F9 in governance. So how he's going to graduate into any substantive legacy is his problem, because the A1 politics is that he knows the political class very well. He knows what moves them, what motivates them, and he knows how to recruit them, sometimes retrench them, retire them, and re-engage them, so he knows what they want. But I wish he knows what Nigerian people want, which is basic services, which is stability, which is security. So, for example, it doesn't matter how many people defected to your party. If you cannot save lives in Benue, in Plateau, in many parts of the country, then you failed ultimately. So, the problem with that speech was forgetting the fact that he was at the National Assembly in front of politicians, but he was actually on behalf of the politicians supposed to give accountability to the Nigerian people. Therefore, I am not sure that Nigerians are as enamored with the defections as the president appears to be in that speech. The politicians who are now waxing albums for the president, featuring the Senate president as a solo singer, and they are singing the choruses, that music is only for their ears, because the rumbling, the stomach of Nigerians will not let them hear the music of the National Assembly. So that podium belongs to the Nigerian people, and it is their issues that ought to be reported there. And the idea that we will assume that the political fortunes of the president and his political party and his co-travelers will be the whole essence of a 4-year term. It's most unfortunate. What you do with politics is that you compete well, and I respect the president that he has ability to compete well. But if you manage to get the power somehow, controversially, that moment politics ends. Then you want to give service to the Nigerian people. You want to manage the diversity of the country very well. You want to obey the Constitution and enforce and execute the enforcement of other arms of government obeying the Constitution. You want to manage the economy. The only skill they have in the management of the economy is the economization of truth, which is basically what they do, rather than manage the economy. So what we want to do differently is to focus the entire politics to the welfare of the people. There will be less controversy if we address this question of, are people hungry or not? How many of them have good housing? Are we investing in education as we should? Are we investing in healthcare as we should? Do we have the basic infrastructure for modern business, modern governance? Do we have are we able to make a complete telephone call without dropping?
Yeah, but aren't you something of a lone voice? Because, I mean, if you look at the opposition in general, let's face it, the impression the public have is that the opposition is in disarray. I mean, it may not necessarily be the case in your party, although in the past you've had your own share of divisions and strife, I mean, fought publicly. But the point really is that you're having more, I mean, you've got all these, you perhaps as an individual, that's why I said a lone voice. You've got all these principles, but is it supported by your party, for example, which is opening its doors to take in a lot of people, potentially people from other parties? I mean, I don't know what the situation is now, but who are going to come in there and who are attempting to use your party as a vehicle for 2027. I mean, and you have to wonder how the kind of fidelity they will have to these principles that you're talking about.
See, first, these principles that we have in the SDP, they do not only belong to me, they belong to the SDP. These were manifestos written when I was a teenager. And they belong to the Nigerian people because they are found in chapter 2 of our constitution. So they are not just something I'm inventing. I might have been a good advocate of it, I'm sincerely believing it, but it belongs to the party. Now, the leadership of the party have dual roles to play. They want those of us who are in the party to promote this ideology. They also want to have an open door policy to allow people to come to the party. Those who are coming now, some might have intentions other than ideological, other than people oriented. They will discover that because the SDP is well rooted, if you are looking for a getaway car in your quick dash to whatever you want to do, you will discover that you are detained in SDP. You are thoroughly weighed down by the need to understand how the party works, that the organs actually do work, and many who have come have managed to be impressed and they are staying. Some who came for transactional purposes, trying to hijack a vehicle, they've discovered that no, this party actually exists in reality. So we welcome all Nigerians. We believe that many people you find in politics are following the bandwagon. They are doing what they think works. So this lone voice, if it keeps resonating, people will discover that this is the right way. More so that the house is already crowded on the government side. They cannot, they don't have the window to look at the people anymore because all the problems of Nigeria are assembled inside their own political party. So they have all these problems of politics to manage. And they can't take, even if all of them go there, they will discover that unless politics starts to work for the ordinary person, there's a limit to how many people want to turn to billionaires overnight by joining.
Right.
So what we are doing, therefore, on our side is that we do not want to say everybody who is outside the party now is automatically not ideological, not principled. No. We are saying when you come in, how you interact with us will let us know whether you have come for principle or you have come to destabilize the party. But we have supreme confidence in the membership of our party that they are ideologically rooted. I have supreme confidence in the leadership of the party, that the leadership of the party believes in the party. And for that reason, if anyone comes to the party, he will have to blend or he will have to move on.
Right. Well, I mean, listening to you talk and talk very articulately is that I'm getting the impression that this country, from what you're saying, is coming to an inflection point where people are tired of seeing rising prices and worrying about what they're going to, I mean, how they're going to meet their basic needs, and, you know, on the one hand, and the administration and politicians are cheering on and clapping for the president on the other. But it is up to the opposition, isn't it? I mean, not you specifically, although you're part of it, but the opposition as a whole, to tap into that disaffection and into the fact that the public appears to be fed up. But the opposition seems to be failing the public, just the way you're describing that the administration, according to you, is failing the public. The opposition is failing the public in that regard. And therefore, Mr. Tinubu is able to ignore, if he wants to, all that disaffection. So it is a reflection of the failure of the opposition, isn't it?
The assumption that President Tinubu has is that the people are marginal to politics. That if you capture the institutions and you capture the politicians, then there is no opposition. But the real opposition is coming from the people. There are problems with those who want to turn career politicians. Politicians who have enjoyed power, you want to turn them to genuine opposition, you're going to have a problem. Because it's only when they are dropped off from the list of ministers for a board appointment or some patronage, that's the only time they remember that we need to make these noises so that we can be brought back. But the Nigerian people know...
It sounds like you're referring to a specific person.
No, it's a general culture which has been there for over many years. And that's why you see many of them, they will say, I will never do this.
Right. Then
the next page, they are doing it. The reason is that the real opposition is from the Nigerian people. Any problem that the SDP has to do with our inabilities thus far to tap into the real opposition in the masses of the people. And I will let you know that the country needs serious surgery, neurosurgery in particular, to be able to solve the problems we have now.
Right.
But to do that surgery, the first thing a surgeon does is to sanitize himself. You have to wash your hands, do all the scrubbing and everything. If you don't do it, you will infect the patient. If we who are in opposition don't sanitize the opposition first to know who is actually in opposition or who is in opposition by convenience. So it is not everyone who is calling himself opposition today that prays in the morning and say, I want to be in opposition.
Right. Okay.
So, and that if we do that, and then we start to let the party belong to the Nigerian people, you are not searching for big men with a lot of money to come and dominate the party. You are letting the people contribute to the party. That is what we want to do. And we are doing our work, maybe a lot of it outside the view of the press, because what we are trying to do is something fundamental that the country needs, that even President Tinubu himself, when all of these paper castle that he's building is blown away by the tide of time, he will realize that even in his old age, he needs a government that works. When he's out of power, he needs a deepened democracy and rule of law. So what we are building requires time. And that's why we tend to attract young people who are not desperate, who don't want to be in power within 2 weeks or 1 year, who are ready to do the grind and build a structure.
Let me ask you this slightly different, veer away from what we're talking about. I don't know if you heard about that call for all staff in the Ministry of Agriculture to pray to help Nigeria achieve food security. It's a call that's caused controversy. It came from an internal memo from the head of the ministry's HR department urging staff to attend a prayer session and to fast for the next 3 Mondays. And in reaction, some Nigerians are questioning the government's commitment to bringing down the high cost of food. Granted, obviously the ministry has said a prayer session is not official policy to tackle food insecurity. But does that ring any alarm bells for you?
No, it's a bit tragicomedy. It's a tragicomedy of some sort, in the sense that the comedic part is that people believe that they can pray instead of go and farm. I'm a farmer. I tend to pray after I've already done all the basic planting. Secondly, it is common. It is a common thing in Nigeria that somehow there's a consultancy that we're given to God to do what we refuse to do for ourselves. And because we are a religious society, I'm deeply, deeply spiritual, but what we are told is that if you want your horse to be safe, you tie it to a tree, and then you can pray. Then God will answer your prayer. So I believe that these are all part of doctrinal confusion that you find in the Nigerian government. Everything that they do, even with the way in which the president selected his prayer warrior to be in charge of agriculture, the way he put his cabinet together, you realize that he has given very little thought. And I can say this without being prejudiced against him. I am convinced scientifically that President Tinubu's mind was not on good governance. When he was setting up his cabinet, he was on politics. It happens that one or two of his cabinet members have been a lucky hit. But for the most part, you have a comedy show all through. And he has a chance, even now, to look within his own party. He should not look towards SDP. We are never going to be useful to him, come to work with him. But he should look towards his party, and many of these is newfound friends, find some of them that are capable of holding down a task and complete the task. For whatever you might think of Mr. Wike, you will know that he can actually get job done. I don't know whether he sleeps at all, but he can get some job done and still go and make trouble tomorrow. So you need somebody who can get a job done. Look at the gentleman in the interior. He appears to be working. So you can look around. Nigeria is not short of talent. But you must know that what matters is that you are a public servant and you are using public resources and public time. And time is the most precious resource that we cannot replace and we cannot renew. So you must do what is right. That is why the office for 4 years. So he is midterm now. He is having midterm crisis and is not willing. He's not showing. He's allowing hubris and some of this comedic adulation that he gets to get in his way. Not to understand that if I am, for example, using his own metric, if I'm not able to give you constant electricity in 4 years, then don't vote for me next time.
Okay.
Now he's halfway there. He's not even 10% of the work done.
I want to thank you very much indeed. It's always good to hear you talk. Barrister Adewale Adebayo is the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party. He was in 2023.
Thank you very much and
good
God
to
bless
see
Nigeria.
you.
Thank you, Charles.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.